Hello and welcome to the Outcast, the Not How to Train Your Dragon podcast. I'm your host, HC, and with me are.
Wolf.
Valkyrie.
And all of the three of us are here to talk about season 3 of Stranger Things. Now, if you're wondering why we jumped into season 3 and ignored 1 and 2, well, for one, we didn't have the time to actually talk about 1 and 2, and 3 it just came out, so might as well be relevant about
We're
it.
supposed to just say because it's strange. Ooh. And go
All
with it.
that, all that.
That
But
makes
you
it seem
know,
like we planned all this.
did we though?
Not supposed to tell them that.
Oh no.
They know. They figured it out. What? It doesn't.
They've watched
It
us
doesn't
this
matter.
long, probably, yes.
Yeah, but before we actually talk about season 3, we can talk about our experience with the show. Like, what is, how did you get into Stranger Things? Like, did you start with the first season or?
Yeah. I think that's probably the answer everyone's going to have. That, yeah, we started with the first season because,
No, I mean, did you start when it came out?
yeah,
Because anybody can. Okay.
personally I
Valkyrie, did
did.
you? Okay.
Yeah, me. I waited a few months after the first season came out, but I did watch it before season two.
So same thing with me. Like I took a while to get on the Netflix bandwagon. So, but when I saw, but everyone talked about the first like Stranger Things. So I saw it. I liked it a lot, and then season 2 came out. I liked it even more. Um, and then we have season 3. So we start with a bit of like we start a bit with like a non-spoiler discussion what we thought about the season, and then we'll move on to full, to go into the season in depth. So Valkyrie, you're the guest. What did you think about season 3 compared to the other seasons? How does it rank?
Compared to the other seasons, I would actually say it's probably my least favorite.
Hmm.
I
I
I
agree.
thought I thought that they were trying to go like a bigger scale, just like season two did, and explore sides of characters that haven't been explored before. But I feel like on both fronts they kind of fell flat.
I agreed that out of the 3 seasons so far, this one was my least favorite. Not to necessarily say it's a bad season, but I could kind of tell that maybe if it was an episode or two less or something, it would have been a lot better. Some of the plot lines, the characters I like some of the characters I really didn't like in this season compared to the other two.
Yeah, me too. I felt a lot of people were out of character, just a bit.
But Wolf, what do you think?
Um, I'm going to be a bit different and say that it's definitely not my least favorite season. I don't know if it's my favorite. I think that still might go to season one, but I think I do like this one a bit more than season two, at least in certain parts of it, anyways.
Hmm.
Okay, so by the looks of it, there's one who really enjoyed the season, two who did, but I think it's the lesser of the three. Would you recommend it to people? People, fans of Stranger Things who didn't have the chance to watch this yet, or maybe on the fence. Would you recommend this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think even if it's not the best, it's still a necessary step in the saga.
hmm Yeah, I would recommend it as well, but go don't expect to be blown away, like because I think also maybe this is also that it is the third season and it's been so long since the second one. Maybe we're just a bit burned out by it. I don't think so, but because when the first season came out, it was this fresh thing that this was the best 80s tribute to ever be around at that time, and maybe people are just burned out by this. I don't know. What do you think?
Um, well, honestly, not speaking as an '80s kid because I'm not. um,
I'm not as well. I think Wolf is the closest to being an '80s kid, and he's like he
91.
was
Yeah.
born. Yeah, he was born in '91. So none of us are '80s kids. Just to put it out there, we maybe saw some things that were in the '80s, but we weren't in the '80s.
yeah, so I agree. It's probably a great tribute because I do watch it with my dad, who is going down a nostalgia train.
Mm.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
but yeah, I would say that uh, it was still as good as it was. In fact, I probably would take back what I said before. I think 1 and 3 are on the same level.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So, but when you say that, would you say season two is above one and three or below one and three?
But I think season 2 is like by far my favorite season.
Okay, fine. Just to know where we're coming from. Okay, so we all shared our non-spoilery thoughts. If you are planning on catching up with this season and you don't want to be spoiled, this is your chance to leave the episode and go watch the season, come back and listen to what we have to say. Spoilers start in three, two, one.
Spoiler.
You're still here? Good. Everyone dies. Moving on. But
Almost right. Actually, not
yeah,
wrong
yeah,
technically.
Not far off.
I just realized that this joke is a bit too relevant. In Well, thank God we're in the spoilers section already. So okay, so moving on with the actual season. So we start with chapter one. Susie, do you copy? Um, we start with our exposure to the villains of this season, the Russians. I'll, I'll give them credit. I didn't expect that. Not at all.
I didn't either. That was definitely like a bit of left out of left field to just immediately start within Russia and seeing all the all the old Soviet Russia stuff. Like that definitely took me by surprise there at the beginning. I'll admit.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a shock. I was like, oh yeah, this is because of the Cold War that this is all
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Yeah, this was yeah. Yeah, then you remember that this takes place in '84, so that was during the Cold War and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like it definitely like immediately jumps out as like, oh yeah, that's a thing during this time. This isn't all just supernatural stuff. That's right. This is set in the 80s. Huh. That's right.
yeah. By the way, I love how this according to the episode list we have here, the show starts at the date of June 28th, and then later in the season it's actually becoming July 4th, as in Independence Day when the season
Mm-hmm.
came out. So bravo, writers,
I mean,
bravo.
they knew what they were doing when they
Yeah,
released
That
this.
was a
probably.
good touch,
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, like
especially for binge watchers. I think because when you get like to that final part, you're just like, oh wow, it's happening like now.
yeah. Even though I don't know about you guys, but I didn't binge all the episodes together in a row. I can't sit for that long.
I did.
Uh, oh,
I can't.
I
oh, good
watched it
for you.
over the span of 3 days, but not by choice.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I split it to 3 days as well. But anyway, back to so we start with the Russians, which this is something that again kind of bringing in the real world, the Cold War, and everything. But it also connects to the supernatural because it does connect us to the monster coming back
Mm-hmm.
into the human world from the upside down. So. So as much as out of left field this start is, it does connect pretty nicely both to the time period this takes place in and the plot as a whole.
Yeah, what we learn is specifically that the Russians are trying to reopen the portal that was closed in the second, or open a new portal after we learned that the portal was, the portal in Hawkins was closed in the second season, and it seems the Russians are trying to open up a new portal into the dimension. to the upside
I
down.
Right.
figured I figured it's the same one, but
When we
whatever.
first see them, I don't think so because it looks like it's supposed to be set in Russia. I doubt they would
Hmm,
get a Russian helicopter in America during the Cold War in the
okay,
80s.
fair enough. Fair point.
I think they were trying to open that same gate from the other side.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that definitely could be it too, but it definitely seems like they're
So
in
basically,
within Russia, not Hawkins just yet.
yeah. So basically, if you want to travel from the United States to Russia, you just need to go through the upside down. That's
I mean, that
that
could
sound.
probably be. I mean, it's the Cold War. You're making a joke, but you're not far off. That's probably what they wanted to do,
Yeah, you know something. Yeah, most likely.
so
Okay,
they could get into
before.
America to invade that much easier. Like, it's a joke, but you're probably right, actually.
The season never talks about this, but did the Russians know about the monster? Like, was there a Russian Demogorgon before this?
Yeah.
Um, hmm. You know, I again considering they're trying to open a portal, and it doesn't necessarily work. It costs lives. I'm assuming it's probably a rumor that's been running around. Keep in mind that the military in the 80s had a much more advanced technology than us humans. So
Mhm.
there may be us humans, like us normal people,
Civilians.
and
Humans.
yeah. So there's a good chance that maybe they heard rumors about what went on in the previous seasons to some sort of a communicator, and they want to test it. But if they actually saw Demogorgon, I'm not sure.
I would say, based on the ending of this season, that they had to have known at least a little something. They had to have had a run in with it, I assume. But there's no guarantee of that either, I guess.
Maybe this is an answer the future season. We know there's going to be another season after this, at least one.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is something that will be answered later on. But moving on with the first episode, we see that Mike and Eleven are actually together, and may I just say they're fucking adorable. I love them.
Agreed.
Like,
I actually disagree. 11 is probably my least favorite ship.
hmm, okay. So you say that, and the next thing we see alongside the relationship is that Hopper is really not happy about this.
To
Like
say the least.
he's been the overprotective father to Eleven and everything. So does this make you take his side more? Because I don't know, I really hated Hopper for this in this season. Not for being worried necessarily, but for how he handles the situation.
I hated his method of lying to Mike and threatening him because that was like uncalled for. But I sympathize with his frustration because it's not just that Mike and Eleven are dating; it's that Mike has like not spent a day without Eleven for months.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did personally. I liked that he did the thing that he did, not because it was a good thing, but because it felt like, yeah, that's Hopper. That's what he would do. He would threaten. He would, mess with Mike, this kid, who's very small, very, much, different from him, right? Like he would definitely mess with this kid. He would definitely threaten him a bit and scare him a bit, because that feels like Hopper, right? To me, at least, anyways. Like that, it's very much him being a jerk, and it's definitely not a good thing that what he did, but it does feel like the him thing to do, to me at least.
Yeah, I from the one hand I get you. On the other, he goes all the way to Joyce's store just to you know just to get her advice, just to kind of get an idea what to do, and then he goes and does the complete opposite thing. With and
He
at the end of
tried.
the day. yeah, he tried, but at the same time, you don't threaten a kid like this. At least I don't know. That kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And this is not the only thing I have against Hopper in this season, but
I do get where you're coming
this
from.
left a
Yeah.
yeah, this left a bad impression. And also, kind of jumping ahead when they have this a bit of a reconciliation at the they kind of make up at the end. It's like he never really apologizes for it, and it's like, dude, you scarred the kid to death. I mean,
To be fair, didn't quite have the time at that moment.
Yeah.
well, you could just say, "I'm sorry." There you go. Two
Fair.
seconds, done. I don't want him to like grab him now for a full-on heart-to-heart conversation, but just I'm sorry. There you go. You, uh, but okay. So we have Mike and Eleven finally developing. Hopper is not happy about it. We so next thing that happens is that Dustin comes back from summer camp, and he's starting to feel like he's a bit left out of the group.
Mhm.
Um, what do you think? What do we think about Dustin and Susie?
They're adorable. That's so cute.
Yeah, this one is definitely the really adorable one. Like these two characters
yeah,
did really well together, and these two
yeah. We
actors did
want
really
to.
well together.
Yeah, we won't get to Susie until the last episode,
Hmm.
I, but considering the fact we are all talking to each other from different parts of the world, seeing like this very early version of Skype or Discord or whatever, it was actually pretty fun. I like that.
Yeah, it was neat. Ham radio.
Mhm.
That was fun to watch. It was funny because it was frustrating because whenever they would need information and they're like, you know, uh, radioing each other, I would always be like, why aren't they Googling this? And it would take me 5 seconds, and I'd be like,
Oh
oh, dang
yeah.
You darn
Man,
millennials.
it.
Gosh.
Oh man, you know something, Wolf. You and I barely escaped being called being actual
I
millennials.
mean, no,
So
I've got that wrong. We are the millennials. Gen Xers is what I should say, I guess. Whatever you.
I'm Gen Z.
Gen Z. Oh gosh, you're even worse.
oh, okay. But basically, so yeah, we have Dustin coming back, feeling left out. He does have Susie, which we don't get to see until later. Um, but then another thing we get is that will start feeling something, which he translates as the Demogorgon coming back,
Mhm.
and also I just like a side note, this is something we see a better example of later, but seeing the Back to the Future poster in the movie theater, it really brought a smile to my face. I love Back to the Future. So yeah, we have. By the way, I think this is the episode where Joyce is sitting alone at her home, and she flashbacks to having a talk with Bob from the previous season. That was so sad. I liked Bob.
Bob the hero.
Can you guys give me 1 minute? I'll be right back.
Oh sure, no
Yeah,
problem.
sure.
We can keep going
Yeah.
for a bit. We did have the major blackout, and that's when Will started having the feeling that something might have been up, but like we don't have any reveal to him immediately saying that this episode, like right, we don't have a thing to him saying the mind flare is what they end up calling it is back yet. We just know
Yeah.
that a power outage goes out, and then I think later we see at an nearby abandoned steel mill, a strange entity appears.
Hmm.
That being
Okay, I'm back.
the mind flare.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the episode ends with Billy being kind of. I think the best term to go with is overtaken by the mind flayer. That was actually, one thing I'll give Stranger Things is that they do creepy really well,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
and that ending scene for the first episode was really was really uneasy.
They do creepy too
That
well.
was
Mm.
a pretty terrifying scene. And I'm skipping ahead a little here, but after what he went through, I was like fully expecting him to kill Karen.
Ooh,
Mm.
yeah.
Go into that, yeah. Yeesh. like, but I mean, like even going back, way back to the first season, like that scene of just the Demogorgon trying to reach through the wall at Joyce. God, that shit. That when I first saw it, and even now going
Yeah.
back to watch it, that sends shivers down my spine. Like that is
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
feels too real. Like they
Yeah.
did too well at that, and they still do too well at it, even in this season at times. Yeesh.
Hmm.
I actually think the
Something.
creepiest
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually think the creepiest scenes are usually the ones where Elle is in her like mind palace and she's like
Mm.
spying on someone.
Oh
Like
yeah,
those scenes freak
with
me
the
out so
black
much.
background. Yeah, there's one
Yeah.
in the future episode that, yeah, that's really got me. Um, so a few more things to note here is that Nancy and Will's brother, man, Steve, um,
Jonathan.
Yeah,
yeah,
Jonathan.
Jonathan, sorry, yeah, yeah, I'm terrible with names,
Steve
but
is best
Nancy and
bro though too. So
yeah, I know, I confused the two, but Nancy and Jonathan are now working at at a newspaper, and they're not being treated in the best way possible. And what do you guys think? Does one of the workers there that insults Nancy kind of reminds you of Trump?
The guy, yeah, the he does look like him.
There's something about the way he talks and moves. I just saw it. It's like that's Trump.
now that
I
you
don't
mention
know.
it, in a way, yeah, I agree. I didn't think about it at the time, but yeah, he's definitely a jerk though. Like that's plain and simple. His character's supposed to be, that really jerk of an '80s masculine
Hmm.
dude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
But I mean,
may we all agree on two words that describe him the best? Fuck him.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
sure.
Because
Okay.
let's be real, it's not Nancy and Jonathan having a bad time, it's mostly
Oh
Nancy.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but Jonathan is kind of there. He's tagging. Whenever Nancy does something, he's usually there as well. So,
Yeah, but like this
eh,
guy's focusing on making fun of Nancy for very specific reasons, right? Like, that's the
yeah,
entire point of
Yeah.
it. And like that's because
yeah,
like, oh, it's the 80s. This was a thing back then, so we might as well bring that up, right? And that's perfectly fine. I agree with them doing that, right? Show that it was a problem.
yeah. And the last thing we have to talk about in this episode is that Dustin records a transmission of a man speaking Russian, and that kind of sets us up to the rest of the season
Mm-hmm.
and the stuff we'll see. Anything else to add on chapter one?
Steve is working at the ice cream place with Robin.
Yeah, right. This is I thought it was this is something we see in the in the second episode, but yeah, we also see that Steve is working at the ice cream shop, and I love his reunion with Dustin. It was the best.
That was very cute.
like
And also
Steve
speaking
and
of
Dustin is just best of bromance. End of, in my
yeah.
opinion. Like
Yeah.
those two work so well together as actors and characters.
Hmm. And speaking of which, we have a new character, Robin. I liked her.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. She has a great back and forth with Steve. I feel through and with
Yeah,
everyone really throughout the season.
and when she has a moment that I actually kind of enjoyed because it caught me off guard. We'll get to it later.
Mm-hmm.
But I she was like out of the new characters. who debut in this season. I liked her a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. She was a very fun character to watch on screen.
Mhm. With that said, moving on to chapter two.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so continuing with the cliffhanger, Bill is now in the upside down, and now taking his place in the real world is the mind the mind flayer is now in his body, and the again something really creepy about the way he when you see him walking and actually not really fully realizing what is going on around him. That's great, but it's also like if you met a person like this who you don't know what's going on, you would be creeped out of your mind seeing someone talking like this. So
Mm-hmm.
again, again, I might as well say it now. I love the actors in this show. All of these actors have really hard roles to play, but they do them wonderfully.
Yeah. Actually, while Steve is my favorite character, I would out of everyone, I would say Dacre Montgomery did such a good job with Billy this season.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yeah, because yes, again, like it's one of those. I think we talked about this a bit off mic that it's one of those bully characters that doesn't really get, a redemption arc. If anything, he goes like he gets way worse as
Yeah.
this as the season goes on, and it's interesting to see. Because they kind of did it with Steve, so it's nice to not have a repeat of that. And so we have that with Billy. Another thing I really liked in this episode in particular is Eleven and Max spending time together at the mall. It's so nice seeing Eleven being a regular kid for a change. She's not hiding. She's not a danger. She's not running away. She's just a kid.
Yeah.
Like, thank you.
It's good payoff seeing, like, hey, we've seen, this girl's past life and just how terrible it's been throughout. It's nice to see her have something nice for a change, no matter how small it is, right? It's a
Hmm.
nice little
Yeah.
payoff. Like, she deserves this. I'm happy for her. Go you.
Hmm.
It
And
was also nice to see her doing it with Max, who,
Yeah.
like, since they left off so shaky last season because she saw her with Mike,
yeah.
I'm glad those two just became friends. There was no problems there.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah, that was nice. And also, I think the like the most quotable line comes from this subplot of Eleven finding out that Mike lied to her because of Hopper. Uh, I'm dumping your ass. That needs to be on a T-shirt. Honestly, I would wear that. But like for no reason, just somebody reads it and see the line, I'm dumping your ass for no reason. Best reaction. So so yeah, I like 11 and Max hanging out together, being friends. And although again I do feel a bit sad for Mike because on the one hand though I also kind of like, dude, you can tell her what Hopper told you. It's not that hard. But at the same time, this is a point where I'm half and half about, because
I
it
think
could.
he was afraid to tell her because if Hopper found out, he would just like straight out forbid him from seeing her.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, fair point. But at the same time, it did felt kind of, I don't know, something about it. I think hmm, I don't know. It felt a bit off. Maybe another rewrite to this could have made it better. I don't know. But all right, we needed some tension. They couldn't have been lovey-dovey throughout the entire season.
It
So
Yeah.
it feels like, this was written to, like, hey, we need to have tension between these two characters, and the disagreement without actually knowing what's going on, stuff like that, right? Like, we've seen this before. It's very much a cliche. It's not done poorly here, but it is something I think we've seen before, and maybe it can be done. It could be done a bit better. I will say, like, I think Mike's character suffers from this a little bit, right? Like, it feels like
Mhm.
it doesn't quite work for him from what we've seen from him in season one and season two, maybe. Like, it makes him seem like more of an to simply put it, right, it makes him seem like he's a bit more of an asshole than what he's appeared to be in the first two seasons. If there's one kind of fault I have, that might be it with the first couple episodes and the kind of subplot of Mike and Eleven having relationship issues.
Mhm.
Right. I just, like I said before, that I don't like Maleven that much. I simply don't like it because I feel like bring out the worst in each other, if that makes sense. And that's in just season one and two. Like, they both treat Max because of their feelings for each other, seems a bit awful. And then in this season, the way Will gets treated because Mike is so focused on Elle.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
definitely
I
seems
I
like
see what you mean.
it shows that I think at the very least it shows that both of them could use some work in figuring things out and how to manage relationships, right? Not just with them, not just between them two, but between their friends as well.
Yeah.
I guess in a way, I would say like it does show like, hey, these are two kids growing up and still kind of figuring things out. I kind of like it from that angle, right? I think
Mm.
they handle it well in that regard and showing like, hey, these are two kids still trying to figure things out. They don't know how to manage time or manage their relationships with each other as well as their friends all at the same time, and they will treat their friends a little bit poorly and not realize that until it's obviously too late and their friends say something and now they need to make up for all that. So I I think it works, but I will agree like it definitely has problems. Yeah.
Right.
By the way, missed opportunity here, I think, that they play around with the joke that whenever Eleven and Max go into a certain store, Mike, Will, and man, I can believe I forgot his name.
Lucas.
Lucas, yeah.
Lucas. There you go. So Mike, Lucas, and Will are passing by the store as soon as Eleven and Max go in it, or like that they just miss each other all throughout their day at the mall, and they meet just as they're about to leave. Wouldn't it be funnier and a bit more, and at the same time a bit sadder, if they just didn't talk to each other at all? Like if they've just missed each other completely?
I think it would have been, yeah, it would have been more sad if they just missed each other, but I feel like that I dump your ass thing was necessary for the plot, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that she shouldn't have dumped his ass, but at the same time, maybe build it up a bit more. Not just oh you lied to me the one time. Like if it looked like he actually actively wasn't around her, maybe, and Max maybe have a bit more time to convince her that she doesn't need him. Maybe it would have a bit more of an impact. But at the same time, it will lead to the same point we have right now. So
I don't know, I disagree. I
whatever.
think they played it fairly well with that. I think it leads really well to the I dump your ass line and it just works really well.
Hmm.
Personally.
And
Think, yeah,
also,
Max constantly, like, telling Elle, don't listen to Hopper or Mike, just be you. And with another teenage girl who talks, like, I think very well portrayed teenage girl, just telling her, you don't need that guy. You're better than him. I think it worked pretty well to her dumping him eventually.
mhm, yeah. At the end of the day, the main thing to take out of this is that for the majority of this season, Mike and Eleven are broken up,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and obviously conflicts arise from this. But the other thing we have, which kind of settle the plot a bit more, is that uh, Dustin approaches Steve with the Russian message he recorded, and together with Robin, they start deciphering it. And then they
Mhm.
start they kind of start the connecting everything, like they all of a sudden hear like a certain song, and it's like, oh, this is the song that plays in this toy house in the mall. And then they kind of they say, like, what was it, a white panda, I think this is like the store or so. On the one hand, I do like it that they decipher all of this complicated stuff, but at the same time, a lot of it felt a bit like a coincidence that everything takes place in that same mall.
The
I think that
mall
was
of
the
many secrets.
point, right? That
Yeah,
it had to be the mall.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like, the mall is the
Uh,
place to be, HC.
Yeah, but at the same time, is this the only mall in town? Aren't there
Well, yeah,
other
it's a small
malls
town.
in the?
It's a small
But
town.
other
They just this mall was just built. It's a small town. Small town gets a new
Everyone was like
mall.
protesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean, that we need to get to where the polo was last open, but again, at the same time, it's like, I don't know, something felt a bit coincidental about all of this.
Like
Maybe it's just me.
Astrid said, that is kind of the point, right? It's meant to be coincidental because that's kind of the old cliche '80s story thing. Like, everything happens at the mall. It's where you go for all of your everything, your needs, gossip, even Russian
Yeah,
spies go to the mall
yeah,
because
and
it's
it
the
always
mall.
yeah, and it always happens 2 days before retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And
let's go
that
with
is
all the cliches when we're at it.
but I mean, no, that is like a genuine story thing that was kind of prevalent in the '80s and a lot of '80s story stuff. Like, everything
Yeah.
happens at the mall. Everyone believed everything happened at the mall, right? Like, that was just the in thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair
It's kind of
point.
them playing to
Also,
that '80s trope, I guess you could say.
yeah, I also kind of want to say, the chapter title, the the mall rats. Great reference. I see what you did there. But yeah, they're figuring it out. And again, despite me thinking that it's a bit too much of a coincidence, I do like when characters are smart enough, but it's also believable enough that they can decipher this kind of stuff, because they walk by the mall every day. They walk there, so obviously the music is going to be familiar because they probably heard that song coming from the toy. And they see these stores every day, so they know, oh, this store has. I like that. I like that they've been in this mall enough times, and that they can also decipher Russian to actually figure this out. I like that. That's cool.
Mhm.
I like that Robin's reason for helping was just I'm bored.
Yeah, that's a legit reason. It's like, why else would you try to take down the Soviet Union? You're bold.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so let's see. We talked
Um,
about this. You got
Hopper
something?
and Joyce.
Hopper and Joyce. Um, I'll let you start.
Me?
Yeah, if you want to. Either one of you start. I'll listen for now.
Okay, so actually, since we're talking about, how Hopper was a bit harsh towards Mike, I'll say I disliked Hopper not really because of him dealing with Mike, but more of how he was with Joyce.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like he had to let that standing up thing go. She clearly had more important things to focus on.
Ditto.
Yeah, Hopper definitely took this one too personal and too far, and this almost became. It did become kind of a running theme throughout the rest of the season for a while, and it definitely, at a point, felt like, yeah, you've taken this too far with this character. It doesn't feel like it's him as much anymore, and it feels like he would just kind of have. To me, it felt like what I understand of Hopper's character, he would have had a problem with it for like an episode when he first confronted Joyce, and then at that point he would have been like, all right, more important shit, or just he wouldn't have cared anymore. He would have moved on and just kind of bottled it all up, right? because that's kind of
Yeah.
his thing.
Mhm.
Actually, I think
Yeah, but go
Okay.
ahead.
just the like what we know of Hopper is like, yeah, he's a jerk, but he also like deeply cares about, keeping
Hmm.
these people that he's grown so close with safe. And if Joyce had reason to believe that, they weren't safe, he should have believed her because she's been right about these things in the past.
Hmm. But he doesn't, and it kind of feels like, oh, it's
Not
because
only
she
that,
stood him up, and it's like, like that just it doesn't feel like him at a point.
not only, yeah, not only that, he's like down at felt real character. Like you said, he was always the kind of person that would probably be a bit would probably be kind of offended, but at the same time, he'll keep it to himself. He'll keep it inside. He won't cause this much of a scene in a public place.
Hmm.
It's like it seems like a real downgrade, and at the same time, all and again, this being a running theme throughout the entire season, which the one thing I will appreciate is that it doesn't go in the direction you think it's about to go, because you again, jumping a bit ahead here, you probably kind of figure out that they're going to end up together at the end of this season, and they don't, for a reason.
Spoilers.
We are in the spoiler section, so what does it matter? I'm just saying that for reasons we'll discuss later, they're not ending up together.
Another thing,
So
another quick thing. Was the mustache a thing in season 2? I don't remember right offhand. Hopper's
Think so?
mustache?
I
I think it was. Eh,
I think it
Whether
was.
whether it was or wasn't, if it was, still not a fan of the mustache. I think it was, so if it was, still not a fan of the mustache. Clean shaven Hopper looks better. Gonna be honest.
Let
Okay,
me
hold on.
That's a
see
me
this
preference, I'm
now.
sure, but
Hold on a
Mustache
second.
and beard in Stranger Things too.
mm-hmm.
Hey, Twig. Yeah, I lose the mustache. Wolf tells you Wolf doesn't like it. Reference to a friend of ours. But anyway, the other thing we have is Nancy and
Yeah,
Jonathan going
yeah.
to visit
That
that
image looks
that.
good. Hopper with mustache and beard, just that looks good. That's good Hopper. Just sole mustache Hopper.
I think he's about to be the actor is about to be in the Black Widow movie. Maybe he's doing something for
Oh,
that.
that's cool. And anyway, so like I said, Nancy and Jonathan are visiting this old lady. Again, you can probably tell I'm not that good with names,
Mrs.
so I kind
Driscoll.
of forgot it.
This is
Mrs.
Driscoll, yeah.
Drizzle. Yes, exactly. So they're going to visit her, and she shows them that creepy rat she found. And as they leave, that rat become this.
It's a meat. It explodes and turns into a meat pile. It's a meat pile.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I don't know. I don't know what the thing is or who designed this, but the first time I saw it, I'm like, my first reaction was, ugh.
Which
Accurate
Nancy and
recreation.
Jonathan could have seen if they had stuck around for like 3 seconds longer.
Yeah,
mhm.
yeah. Again, kind of one of those '80s cliche. Like you left the second if you said one more minute, you would have got what you needed.
I think what I was confused about was since they wanted proof so bad, why not just take the rat with them?
Yeah,
Yeah, this is another thing I wanted to point out. We talk about characters having the story instead of the other way around. Why not take the thing to the newspaper? Like, oh, that way you have something to go off. You don't. They don't just have to take your word for it. So, mm,
agreed.
but they
Right.
didn't.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's so anything else about chapter 2? We
The last thing we just
la-
Heather,
yeah.
hmm?
they're the lifeguard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Heather, the other lifeguard. Yeah. So
The one Billy
Bill kind.
abducts.
Yeah. Billy abducts her as well, and I'm not sure if it's in this episode. I think it may be the episode after, like chapter 3, where Eleven sees Heather in one of her quote unquote dreams, if you know what I mean, when she's in the black background, and
I
like
I think this episode ends with not her seeing Heather, but her seeing both of them with Billy, pushing Heather down.
Hmm.
okay, hmm
And we really
yeah,
get to
but
see the full extent of it in the next episode.
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, because like what did I want to say? But there's a scene where she sees like Heather in a bathtub, and then Heather like drowns into the bathtub when she tries to get it. Like that legit freaked me out a bit.
Mm.
Something about the way it was shot.
Just even without Elle seeing it, just Billy like sacrificing Heather just seems so eerie to me. And when he just
Yeah.
knocks her out, when he's like seeing things, when she tells him to take me to them, that whole thing just freaks me out.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeesh.
They did it well. They did it very well.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
well. Some would even argue too well. Who
Mm.
knows? So chapter 3,
Yeah.
Yep.
the case of the missing lifeguard. I'm pretty sure this title is supposed to be a reference to something, but I can't figure out at the top of my head. But
I
so
think it may be a Nancy Drew reference.
mm, I'm not sure because I know like the title itself is about like I know the case of the missing enter something here, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's lifeguard or I can't tell you what the original thing was supposed to be there if it is a reference to something.
Okay.
Oh well, moving on with the episode itself. One another thing I like being an actual girl here is that she's using her powers to spy on Mike. And I don't know, if you were a kid and you have that power, you would have done that eventually.
I'm surprised she waited as long as she did.
I like how they were playing spin the bottle with it too.
Mm.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
how they.
you know something?
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, I think they land on is it Mike's dad? I think or someone.
Yeah, Ted Wheeler.
And they land on him and are like, yeah, no, too boring. I'm like, ouch, poor Ted.
They're
Actually,
right.
what did he do this season? What did Mike's parents do this season? Now that I
Mike's
think
mom
about
was
it.
actually a bit more. I mean, his parents have always been kind of backgroundish for the most part, but Mike's mom I felt was a bit more active in terms of being a mom. Like she had I think a really nice
Yeah.
chat with Nancy a little bit later on in the season.
Yeah, that's true.
Their dad's still for the most part been mostly background character, right?
Yeah, the dad's always been just, more comic relief than anything.
Yeah, he's kind of been there, and he's definitely been there for some jokes, and that's mostly been it. But I do think they really did something with Nancy's mom this season, especially with the conversation she has with Nancy later, which is just really a nice thing. I felt.
Have you heard of the ship with Ted?
I haven't. No.
Yeah,
No.
it's called Ched, which is chicken and Ted, because in season 1, like she tells him, "I hope you're enjoying your chicken."
That's good. That's good.
Wow. Okay, new OTP for all of you Stranger
Oh,
Things
dear.
fans who might listen to this. I'll gladly take fan art and fan fiction. Go, my lovelies. But anyway, so another thing, as they're doing this though, they like I do like 11 and actually telling Max about Billy because he's her brother, and them actually working together to find out what's happening with him. Max, that Max isn't just mad at her brother for the previous season. She actually cares about him. She's worried about him. She wants what's best for him. I like that. That's cool.
I do wish, which I think would have made the whole thing more impactful, is that they showed us how Max and Billy were interacting before he got possessed.
Yeah, that could have been because we do get some flashbacks later on about Billy's childhood. So yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
Yeah, and poor Will.
You know, on the one hand, I agree with it. I know what he's going through as being the as being the single guy in the group of friends have
Feeling like the third
dolphins.
wheel.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there.
Will.
I see what you did there. I'm proud of you, Wolf.
You're welcome.
But being in that situation, I get it. I honestly get him. But again, there's something about there's something about that you know this did felt real, like that he would have a falling out with friends because of this. That they kind of have something else to look forward to or to dwell on while he still doesn't have that. I like it. It is kind of realistic that and also you could argue he has experienced less from them because of the time he was at the Upside Down and couldn't and wasn't around. So I like that he's still like the young one of the group. I like that. It felt real.
And of course, there's and obviously this is like subtext, but the implication that Will is gay.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah.
picked up on that one real quick too. Like that actually surprised me a bit. Like, are they trying to? I'm okay. This is
They've been
cool.
saying that since like season one, right?
Well, yeah.
When like
Like it.
Joy's
Oh, go ahead.
father calls him that, and people, his friends, make fun of him for that. I don't know.
Like, yeah, they definitely made fun of it a lot, but it never felt like, oh, that's what they're going with this. But like in this season,
Yeah,
it felt
I
like, oh
think
wow, they're actually trying. It seems like they're being more specific and less subtle about the thing that like he has a thing for Mike. Like that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
mhm.
Like,
Yeah, this
I'll be honest, I thought they might have been going with something like that with Max and Eleven too, just because of how close those two characters got and what all they were doing. I was like, are they going with them too? I like this.
Hmm.
I could see this happening with 11 specifically
Mm.
because not much of a human, but with Max, it could happen. It could happen. Who knows? But I don't think they went in that direction.
No, I
At
don't.
least not in
I
this
don't
season.
like looking at the whole season. I don't think that's the way they went. But it kind of, when I first saw the episode of Max and Eleven hanging out and doing a lot together, it felt that way to me a little bit. And the thought came up to me, like, are they going to? Like, I'd be interested if they did. That's cool.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it would be just cool to see Elle, being exposed to new things because, she
Hmm.
doesn't know anything right
Yeah.
now about love and attraction.
Mhm. Yeah. If they'll ever do that, I would be on board.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm not sure if this is if you know because these two girls could be just friends.
Oh, sure.
Not everything needs to be a ship.
Sure, sure.
Mhm. Mm, Okay. So we keep going with Dustin, Steve, and Robin trying to figure out what the recording says, and I think this is in this episode we're getting introduced to into
Erica?
and not, yeah, and I'm not sure how much of a popular opinion this is going to be, but I didn't like Erica.
Really, I liked her. I thought like this little kid is just here, just all the sass. I loved the sass from her. She's just, I loved it
Yeah,
personally.
me too. I thought she worked really well with the
Like,
Scoops troop.
Yeah.
here's the thing. It's not the character as it's written because I like sassy characters. I like her sassy remarks in the situations. I'm sorry to say, I just think it's the actress's voice. Like her voice annoys me.
Yeah, I didn't have that
I,
problem. I'll just put it simply.
Fair enough, fair enough. It's quite possibly just a meeting,
That's fair.
but something about the way. Because I think maybe and I don't want to blame the poor kid because I'm sure she tried her best, but maybe it's the direction. Maybe it's not necessarily her voice, but something they tell her to do with her voice. I don't know, but something about the way she talks kind of was like, yeah, I get it. She's supposed to be the sassy character. I get it, and the remarks she does have are great. It's just the way she talks kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Actually, the
But
one
again,
thing that I didn't like about Erica was that it just felt weird to me that they had this young black girl preaching capitalism.
Yeah, she definitely. I felt like kind of in a way broke the fourth wall a bit, maybe.
Yeah, she was there as like a pro-American character.
Yeah,
well,
it was strange, but
America.
I still kind of liked it. It still worked for what it was, right? It didn't to me. It didn't feel entirely out of place. It was weird at first, but the more I watched her and the more she kind of had those remarks about stuff like that, it began to feel like, yeah, this is her. This doesn't feel completely out of place. I don't like. I guess
Um,
it kind of grew on me. I guess in a way.
Mhm. Okay. But yeah, we do have a this episode and continue on our adventures with Hopper and Joyce. Again, Hopper takes this way too personally.
Yeah. Yeah, this felt like I think this was where the episode. I think a lot of people would agree. Like in this episode, it felt like, okay, Hopper, let's move on.
Hmm.
Too far.
And
yeah,
also like when he finds out that she's also planning on moving out of Hawkins, it's like, dude, she doesn't owe you anything. If she wants to move, if she wants to move out, she can. It's like it's not that she owes you. Like she doesn't really owe you anything.
yeah,
That
I think I agreed that just because I mean after everything she's been through, she more than deserves to get away from this
mm-hmm,
place that probably gives her nightmares.
mm-hmm.
Hmm. Yeah, she lost her son at 1 year. She lost her boyfriend the previous year. It's like everything is going like all this weird shit is going on in this town. I don't know. I would have left.
Yeah.
Kudos to her that she actually stayed for this long. I would have, as soon as I've gotten Will back, I would have run away.
Mm.
What was really weird to me is when they enter the lab and she's like staring at the place where Bob died, and she has that flashback. Hopper asks her what's wrong, but he was there. He knows what's wrong.
Yeah, right. Okay, but maybe he doesn't really connect that it still impacts her as much.
Yeah, I think
That she
it's
actually
supposed to
sees
be.
him.
I think it's supposed to kind of say like she's still Hopper's not like the most empathetic of people at times, right? Like he can be oblivious. I think that's what that's supposed to kind of show.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I will say, right, I did kind of, apart from the whole Hopper having an issue being stood up thing, I did kind of like the reveal that, Hop didn't want her to leave. In a way, I kind of liked that personally because it kind of felt like, to me, it felt like, oh, that's a little bit sad in the fact that, Hop does care, right? Like he does have this attachment to people and he's very reluctant to let people go because he gets attached
Yeah.
so easily and he does care
No, this,
in that
you know,
regard I kind
this.
of liked it, but I do agree like with everything else that comes with that it just doesn't work that well, I feel.
Mhm. Like again, one, this is everything up to it. It's not necessarily the fact that he's sad that her leaving that
Mm-hmm.
bugs me, but it's not just that. It's also the idea that it's also the idea that I get it that she's probably his only real friend in this town, so
Mm.
seeing her leave is probably hard on him. I get that, but again, there's something about the arguments he makes
Yeah,
against it.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's not the feelings themselves. That in that case, it's legit. It's just the arguments he makes against it are
Yeah, I
where I'm
agree.
like, ugh, dude, no.
I completely
I
agree with
think
that.
it would be okay. It would be okay if by the end he was like, "Hey Joyce, it's okay. I'll deal without you, but you should do what you want." But he doesn't really have that development. He just kind of stays the same the whole season.
Mm.
Mhm. Yep, and that it stays. Um, one last thing that happens in this episode is that Eleven and Max and find Bill and Heather at Heather's apartment, and as soon as they leave, um, Heather is now an orphan because they kill her parents.
Don't knock the.
Yikes!
Well, I mean,
I,
yeah.
I didn't I didn't remember the reporter guy's name because that's the same guy who's like making fun of Nancy. But I just called him Mr. and Mrs. Heather. So
Mr. and Mrs. Heather.
I'll admit,
Oh
right?
wow.
Like, I didn't catch. Like, I seriously for a second, like, I was completely confused in a later episode. I was like, wait, wasn't Heather's father the mayor? Why is he acting
yeah,
normal and not
the
completely messed up?
mayor and the press guy look so alike.
Yes, like that was my
Yeah, but
problem. And then we
like
get to the press,
no,
and Nancy's like, "Hey, he's really messed up. Did he like? Oh, that's Heather's dad. Okay."
Yeah,
okay.
that's when I realized too.
I don't know. I managed to differentiate them a bit, but I get I get what you're saying
Like I don't know
Yeah.
why I did, but for that one, I just it completely just blew over my head of who her dad was at the very least.
Hmm.
I don't know why it did, but it did.
This episode also introduced the Russian Terminator.
Mm.
Yeah, the Russian Terminator. Yes. It's funny that they call him the because as soon as I saw him, I'm like, oh wow, like this, like you could tell that they kind of wanted Arnold Schwarzenegger for this part, but they couldn't get
Yeah.
him.
I wish they could have though. That
So,
would have been so great. I wish they could have. That would have been so great.
oh man.
No, like the minute
Uh,
you see his face, I was like, that's just looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So again, it's like I bet you that they wanted him
Yeah.
or like some other big 80s action star. Like man, imagine like bringing like in some future seasons them actually bringing him like slow one like that
Mm.
just to complete that and that 80s feeling. But what
You
can
know,
you
it'd
do?
be cool if they brought in like Tom Cruise or something.
Hmm. Yeah, well, he's still relevant to an extent.
It's true.
Well, anyway,
Uh,
well, this should be like this, like Stranger Things season 4 casting call, like who we want in Stranger Things season 4. Uh, okay, but and speaking of 4, chapter 4, the sauna test. Um, you know what? Jumping ahead, I do like how they try to capture this thing in a sauna. That whole action sequence was really cool.
yeah, I agree. That was a very good scene when they captured Billy.
Hmm. And that's another thing that in the previous season you could get the idea that Eleven is still trying to get used to her powers, and they will kind of see it as she can't do it every time. She's still trying to figure out. But in here you can tell that she's already practiced and she has a grasp on it, and they take full advantage of that during fight
Mm.
scenes, and I like that.
I actually thought that they were gonna go with the route that Max would let Billy go because she would be like too emotional to see him burning up. But I'm glad they just literally were like, yeah, Billy's super strong now.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not only is he super strong, but you could tell that Max is not happy needing when they need to hurt him. She doesn't want to hurt him, but she does do it for his own sake. And like you said, I do like that she's not like sees him and he's like, I can't. He's my brother, and she lets him go. No. He breaks out himself because he can do that.
Again, though, like,
Mhm.
credit to Billy's actor, right? Like he plays this scene extremely well, switching emotions
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Yeah,
sorry
definitely.
to backtrack a bit, but episode 3, I think,
Sure.
had one of the best scenes in the entire season at the end when Will destroys Castle Byers and he turns around and he goes, he's back. Like that was such a
Mm.
impactful scene.
Mhm.
It's kind of a creepy scene too, right? Like it definitely
Yeah.
sets it up really. Again, like they're too good at that. Too good.
Mhm. Yeah, these actors are.
And I think this is also the episode 4, where Karen encourages Nancy after they get fired.
um, trying to look through. Like, yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Actually, I think they actually get fired in the previous episode because in here the boss, or maybe it's here that they were getting fired because the boss is also transforming. Like is it in this episode
Yeah,
where
it's chapter 4
in
they get fired because I think it's chapter 3 they kind of get fired, but I think it's chapter 4 that Nancy has the talk with her mom.
Chapter 3, I believe the last scene we see with Nancy and Jonathan is them watching Mrs. Driscoll like eat the dirt.
Yeah, and like
yeah, because according to the episode option here. In episode 4 is when Nancy sees Mrs. Driscoll has transformed.
Yeah.
yeah, episode 4 it says later Nancy and Jonathan are fired by Tom.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Okay,
Tom.
that's his name
Tom, that's
apparently.
his name. Hmm. Yeah, I see that. So yeah, this is the episode where they're fired, and also at the so it's not what I was thinking. Maybe it's the next episode. So we'll get to this later. But we know at this point Tom fires them, and we know at this point that you know he's also possessed by the Demogorgon or
Mm-hmm.
the Mind Flayer. So so that also kind of puts an interesting spin on it that maybe he fires them now because he realizes they're getting closer in on the plan that they could become a problem.
Yeah. Until Up until the scene where they're fired, I did not realize that the people who were like getting kidnapped were getting possessed. I thought that they were being put in the upside down while the rats like took their place.
Hmm.
Well, apparently they're all being kept somewhere,
Which I
and
actually thought was tragic, like
yeah,
so many people in Hopkins
that is
died.
yeah, that is kind of sad that they're not really replaced. They're still around, but there's nothing to say. They're just there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
that is kind of sad. Um, so moving on, another thing that happened this episode is Steve, Robin, and Dustin convincing Erica to break into the the Russian lab. Let's call it. That's through the mall air vents.
Right.
After
Do they
finding
also
out,
get stuck?
yeah, this is something I want to say. Dustin trying to get through and getting stuck was kind of funny.
I think easily the most comedic lines are from that group. Just like when Steve says like, "Oh yeah, I'm so relieved now that I know that the Russians can't make elevators."
Yeah, yeah, them in the elevator was was great. Yeah. But yeah, that group finding out finds out about the lab being underneath the mall, and what else do we have in this episode? Oh, is it in this one where Hopper and Joyce find the Santa Klein?
Yeah. Yeah, they capture
Okay.
the Russian scientist and all of
Oh,
that
Alexi.
jazz. Yeah.
Yeah, Alexei. They capture this Alexei and bring him to
Oh
Klein.
no
Who
no no
knows
no! They
Russia?
don't capture
Oh,
Alexei. I'm sorry. Klein is the mayor. My bad.
oh yeah. Oh, Klein is the man. Okay, so man, I love this scene where Hopper beats him up. As much as as much as I didn't like Hopper in this season all that much, that scene is great. I would give it every possible credit I can.
Hopper being Hopper right there.
It was very uh just it paid off to like you really wanted to punch the mayor, so you're glad someone did.
Just
I
this mayor
also
or
like
any mayor?
I also like that the mayor's assistant, she's like tries to call someone and Joyce unplugs the phone and says, "Who are you gonna call? The police?"
Yeah, yeah, that was good. Yeah. Man, maybe it's the '80s thing that this movie has gone that this show has going on. But I, as soon as she said who you're gonna call before she mentioned the police, I was my mind immediately replied Ghostbusters. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Actually, they did dress up as the Ghostbusters the previous season,
Yep,
so yeah,
they did.
that's something. What else do we have here? So we mentioned the breaking in into the labs. We mentioned the sauna fight. And
That's kind of it for this episode, other than
oh,
the
oh,
end.
oh, oh, wait, the end. Yeah, the end. Is it this episode that ends with all the with all
Blade,
the
yeah.
capture with all the captured people are like melting together to form that big Demogorgon.
Oh no,
Eh,
no, that doesn't happen yet. They just show them. It's like Heather says, like they can't kill all of us, and it shows like all
Okay.
of them standing.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's probably the next episode. Okay, so we'll get that when we get to that when we get to that. And do you have anything else about episode 4?
No, I think that's it.
Okay then. So episode chapter 5, the flayed. Can we since we mentioned it, can we jump a bit to the end where they're actually forming that beast? That's fucking terrifying. Like actually
Yeah,
seeing
that was
them.
disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just seeing these people collapse into a pile of nothing, and seeing I was like, ugh. And to quote my best friend after she told me she watched that episode, I want a figure of that thing. Like she wants a figure out of the Demogorgon world. People are being molded into it.
Outpass.
Actually, I'm gonna. I just realized that is the end of chapter 6, not chapter 5.
Really, because according to the thing here, is it's the end of chapter 5.
E pluribus, that's chapter 6, right? That's the one that ends with.
So there's two versions of this, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken. There's the smaller version where you see the
Like you see the process before it becomes the big one.
yeah, you see, like, I think chapter 5 is where at the hospital you see the two people, Heather's father and the jerk,
Oh, yes, okay.
form into
Yeah.
smaller Demogorgon thing, and then they eventually go dissolve and go down the sewer. In chapter 6 we see the big one form.
Right. And that
Yeah.
hospital scene, that's easily, I think, the scariest scene in the whole show. That
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say like the entire
Oh, go
the
ahead.
entire sequence in the hospital of that like both Nancy and Jonathan, again against Tom and the kids against Billy. This is legit one of the most intense moments of the entire show, I would argue. That was great.
Like just being in that.
I thought they were gonna kill off Jonathan.
Oh yeah. Like it definitely seemed like, oh wow, they're going really far with this. Is he gonna die here? Like that was definitely like the thought when I was watching through this episode and going through it. Like definitely, is Jonathan gonna die? Question mark.
And honestly, I titled this season like the season in which they don't pull any punches. Like every character gets so beat up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as well, according to rumors, or what the creators said, we know for a fact there's going to be a season 4. They're not sure about a season 5. So if season 4 is the last one, it kind of makes sense that at this point, this is where the characters are starting to get beaten up. Like this is the point. This is the point where they're starting to, to go to. This is starting to take over them, considering the fact they put up with this twice now. So, and yeah, you can tell like Jonathan is screaming throughout the entire fight with Tom. Like holy shit.
Going over the hospital scene a little bit, like even before we get like the forming of the beast, like just those two characters, Heather's father, Tom, and the other guy who's just
Trump lookalike.
Yeah, like both of them actually, they pulled this scene off really well for being kind of minor side characters who were very one note at the beginning. Like they pull off like being creepy very well. I feel, especially the Trump lookalike, right? Like he does he plays it up very well. I feel.
Yeah, the entire.
I like how that's how we're referring to him now as well.
Yeah. Even though we agree that his name is Tom, we are still calling.
No, the other one, the Trump lookalike.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Right. Tom is not
a
Trump lookalike. Let's call him that. Anyway.
That entire scene when Nancy is hiding, he's like, Nancy Drew, where are you? I legitimately was hugging my pillow and.
Yeah, like bad choice to watch this before I went to sleep that day. Oh man. Yeah, but what else do we have in this episode? Because the hospital scene is the highlight, no doubt. But what else do we have? I need to refresh my memory for a bit.
Mike and Elle kind of are okay. Like she helps them with the vending machine, and they smile at each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this is like we kind of assume this is going to happen, because they broke up. So now it's the entire them beginning to make up, which again I like. I ship them, but at the same time, yeah, I knew this was going to happen, but at the same, it's still cute.
Right. We also they get Alexi and go to Murray's house, Hopper and Joyce.
Yeah. Yeah, this is something that on the one hand I enjoy, and on the other hand a bit not. That both Murray and Alexi are gonna call in Joyce and Hopper on their love-hate relationship, which on the one hand I appreciate because it kind of functions as therapy, because I feel the exact same thing, but at the same time it's like the show knows it's wrong, and pointing it out doesn't make it any better.
Yeah. Like, I liked Murray just calling them out and say, just please would you two have sex already? God. But, like, I liked that kind of. Like, I thought it was funny. But, yeah, it's kind of like, okay, you know what you're doing here? Right? You know?
And, it's even worse when you take into account what happens at the end of the season and how this is not going to be a thing. So it's like it's just teasing by this point.
Yeah.
I think it is this episode. I want to point out one of the best scenes. Steve finally won his first fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He kind of won with Billy. I consider
Billy kind of cheated, right? He smashed a plate on his head.
True. I call it a win for Steve. Steve deserved that win too.
Yeah, Steve deserves the win.
Let's be fair. He wins against interdimensional monsters, but not human boys.
Well,
fist fight's not so great. Killing interdimensional monsters, though, Steve's your guy.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? Maybe if there's a rock in your way, he could actually beat up the rock. whoever gets that reference gets it. Um, what else did I want to say? Um, Actually, I think this is the episode where they actually find out that the Russians are trying to open the portal to the Upside Down,
Hmm.
which released the Mind Flayer.
Right.
I loved Steve and Dustin's reaction in that too. Like the girls are like, "What in the world is this?" And they just kind of look at each
Yeah,
other and they're just like, "Son of a, not again."
yeah.
I love that.
This was funny because it's always funny to see like the people who are new to this whole thing and then the people who
Hmm.
are used to this and are so over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually was, I think, weird for me because I completely forgot that they don't know about the whole
Mm.
monster yet. They're just focusing on the Russians.
Mhm. I think it's also in this. You know what? This is something I could actually keep. It's better to be brought up later. It's about Steven Ross. If you probably know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
that's definitely a bit
we'll
later.
keep it.
We'll get there.
Mhm. Yeah, we'll get there. What else do we have?
I
Um,
think that's everything for chapter 5, just about.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, we pretty much went over everything. So with that said, chapter 6, E pluribus unknown.
E
Which
pluribus
I
unum.
I searched
Unum.
up that
Yeah.
title means like all for one or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's Latin if I'm not mistaken. For yeah, all for one, or out of many, one is what it is. I think.
Right, right.
Yeah, so we're still in the hospital, and again still everything is done in this hospital as we discussed. Great, and uh, I'm reading over the thing to try and remember.
So
It has been a
the
while.
very beginning of this episode is just seeing 11 using her powers and just being an absolute, putting it bluntly, badass. Like she
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
throws that beast that those two the two press people turn into. She just throws it around like it's nothing, and I just like, yeah, that's my girl.
Oh, that was an amazing scene for her.
Yeah, like I said, it's great to see that she has maybe not really full grasp, but she does have a grasp on her powers
Hmm.
by this point. So it's great seeing her, using using them for to their full advantage. That's great.
What was funny is so I was watching it with my dad and my little sisters who probably shouldn't be watching it, but here we are.
How old are
Um,
they? Just to know.
10 and 11.
Oh no,
Yeah.
like the 11 one, yes, because for irony's sake, but the 10-year-old, no.
It's actually funny because I think the 10-year-old one is braver, but
Oh,
um, my 11-year-old sister, she watched the scene when Elle kicks the monster around, and she goes, "Wow, she really cares about Nancy."
that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Um, so we have that fight scene. Then
So we have the them interrogating Alexei and him messing with them.
Hmm.
mhm, yeah, yeah, that he asks them to bring him all of those. He asks them to bring him a certain type of burger, if I recall. And they have an argue about the juice he asked.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then Hopper finally
Uh,
just loses it. I kind of like that moment from Hopper where, like, this was Hopper showing, like, hey, he's not just, a complete grump who doesn't get it. He does get it. He's not an idiot. I kind of like this moment from Hopper a little bit, like him showing, like, yeah, that's kind of the Hop I like and remember. Let's get away from the,
Yeah.
the bullcrap relationship stuff and go back to this. I liked that moment.
mhm. And that's I think it's in this episode as well that Hopper kind of has this plan that he he thinks he gives Alexei the impression that he lets him get away.
Yeah, that's the moment I was
uh,
talking about.
yeah, I like it, because he is a cop. He does know some sort of reverse psychology. So it is nice to see him actually put it to good use, and getting something from it. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, it was
Although,
nice to see something outside of the relationship drama that, like, oh yeah, Hopper is a cop. He's smart.
yeah, we kind of forgot about it, but now we remember. But yeah, so they learn about they learn about how the again. And now I think this is the point where everyone is kind of caught up on the fact that the Russians are trying to open another portal to the Upside Down.
Not every
And
like I think like our main kid group
okay,
with
yeah,
Nancy
Mike,
and them.
yeah, like Mike 11,
They're
MC,
still
and all those probably
they're
don't
still
know.
very much kind of dealing with the monster side of things. But yeah, Joyce Hopper and Dustin and the rest of them realize like, hey, the Russians are connected to the monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're connected to the monsters indeed. And they are, and worse yet, they're trying to open the portal and unleash the evil again, and nobody wants that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. And speaking of the Russians, my boy Steve gets tortured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Poor Steve.
yeah, yeah.
He
That
goes through so
you
much
know,
hell.
yeah, but something. Kudos to him for actually holding on and not. I did like that he doesn't break. At
Well,
least.
he kind of does because he has nothing to hide, right? He's right. He just works at an
Yeah,
ice cream place.
but that's the thing. That's what I mean, though. That you could have just written it that he tells them complete bullshit, or give somebody else away just so that they could stop hurting him. But he doesn't. He sticks to his truth, even though they don't believe him.
Right.
Poor Steve, though.
Yeah, I felt really bad for like poor guy just want to fight and now he's being tortured.
Poor guy. But but then is it in this episode where they actually give them the drug that makes them laugh all the
Yeah,
time?
that's this episode.
Okay.
The truth serum.
Yeah. And something. This is kind of funny that even with the truth serum, the Russians still believe that they are lying, which is
Yeah.
like, if you still think they're lying, this is I don't have much hope for you. Like you can get any more real than a truth serum, I guess.
Yeah.
So now as hard as it was to see Steve being beat up, it was funny once they gave them that drug. I will admit, and also kudos to him for not breaking up, and then Erica and Dustin actually saving them. That's also good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Erica being outed as a nerd.
Mm-hmm. That was a good moment. And like I think Dustin and Erica played off of each other really well here, and like Dustin telling Erica like, "Hey, this is what all happened," and she's like, "My brother was involved in all this." And I loved the moment where Dustin's like, "Wait, that's the thing you have a problem with here? Not everything else?" He's like, "Oh no, I get the rest of it. That's fine. But my brother, though?" It's like I enjoyed that moment.
Yeah.
Peak sibling.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man, can you imagine the dinner after this was done? Like all the stories I had to tell each other after this. But after all of this, we also have 11, going inside Billy's memories, and I will say that scenery when she's like on the beach with the colorful sky and everything, like the eye of the storm, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That was a great visual.
Agreed.
Right. Yeah, it was.
And it was also nice to see kind of a bit of Billy's past, right? Like I think we kind of already had a decent idea of what happened to him in the past, but it was nice to get to see that and develop his character a bit, especially for what comes later.
Yeah, which because the second season also kind of put him as like kind of a mean older brother to Max, and kind of like and then and through this you could see kind of what causes it. That it's not just he's born bad. He has a reason.
Mm-hmm.
He's been through shit,
Mm-hmm.
and
But
I do like that they didn't try to be like, it's okay that he's such a crap human being because he had a bad past, but it's more just like,
no, 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 I'm not saying this in terms of it's okay that he's a bad human. I'm saying I can understand how he got to that situation. It doesn't justify him being a
yeah, no, no,
bad
yeah.
yeah,
person.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, that I like that the show didn't try to justify him. It was more just for Elle to see just, how tragic this was.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree. Like it's nice that they did that. Yeah, like nothing was justified about Billy or his actions, but it was nice to see, and it was nice to give 11 like, hey, this is how we find out a bit about him. Yeah, I agree with that completely. But going back to that, this show does creepy really well, and some of those in the scenes where we see 11 kind of traipsing through like different people's minds and kind of that
Yeah,
mind palace
all
thing.
of those scenes,
This
all
moment
of those
where
scenes
she
were.
comes out of his memories and Billy just grabs her arm and says, "You shouldn't have done this. Now we know
Yeah.
you. Now we can sense you." It's like, God, that was too good again. Like you gotta
Hmm.
stop
That was
this.
such an intense scene when he's like, we're gonna kill you and we're gonna kill your friends.
Mm,
It was
agreed
Ugh.
completely.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was creepy. It was just intense.
Yeah, it was definitely it was
Mhm.
intense. I would go with like a bit of it was creepy, but yeah, very much the big feeling there was very intense. Like yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yep. Nothing to add. It is indeed. It is indeed creepy.
And then we end with all of the citizens who are possessed becoming part of the monster.
Hmm.
With that said, chapter 7.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay,
Oh,
chapter 7.
it starts really weirdly, right? Where Holly sees like the trees moving. When that happened,
Hmm.
I genuinely thought that Holly was also possessed, and
Oh,
I thought she was about to like eat off of the off of the ride and like go in. It was weird.
that would have been awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't. So,
Thank God.
so yeah. So that's good. Um. So Dustin and Erica managed to get Steve and Robin out. I do like that they managed to lose them in the movie theater, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
doing again Back to the Future, yeah, baby. And
Premiered a day before, right? It was on July 3rd that it came out.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I
Yeah.
think yeah, it did came out on on the July 4th weekend.
So
And
that
I did like actually helping them out and actually losing, managing to having this strategy that we stay in this state, they'll go away eventually. We need to lose them somehow.
right.
And um,
We
what
also
else do we have?
at the very also at the beginning we have the big attack. We have the big. We have the mind flare itself attacking our group with Nancy, Jonathan, and the kids right in the cabin,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that's also a really good scene. I feel like
Hmm.
getting to see kind of all of them do their thing a little bit, and 11.
Yeah, because it's not just 11. All of them has something that they can do
Hmm.
in order to fight off this thing. So, which is also cool. As much as it's fun seeing 11 being at full grasp of her powers, it's also nice to see that the others are not useless when in comparison to her. They do have something.
Yeah.
They have a merit, which a lot of shows kind of fail at that point sometimes.
Yeah. Like
It always makes me laugh whenever like these monsters are coming and everyone's grabbing like a gun and you have Elle and then we see Lucas pulling back a little slingshot.
yeah, that's right. I still love and enjoy it though. It's like that slingshot has just been constant, and he's always used it, and it's never not been completely useless. It's always had a bit of a use. right? Like
Yeah.
I've always loved that. It's like it feels out of place, but it's just him, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. And eventually, all of the groups are kind of like meeting up at the mall, which again makes sense.
Mm-hmm. It
I'm
all
glad
happens at
that
the mall.
Dustin and the rest of the kids finally have that moment to communicate.
Yeah, like they all get back
Hmm.
together, and it's like, oh, we missed each other. It's like it's just a nice little
Yeah,
moment before everything hits the fan.
yeah. We need we everyone was reunited. Now it's time to come. Now it's time to we put everything aside. We forgive each other. Everything. Now we're back together, and we need to get down to business.
Right.
Mhm.
This is speaking of moments. This is also the moment with Steve and Robin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is something that I do want to say because throughout the entire, not the entire, but throughout the season, Robin did tell Steve about how she was always kind of jealous that another girl was looking at him. And you can kind of tell based on their interaction and everything that she might had the hearts for him at one point, and that's why she hates him because he didn't return her feelings. Then they kind of throw that curveball at you that she wasn't mad at him. She wasn't mad. She didn't want him. She wanted the other girl. She hated him because he took the girl she liked. And I honestly didn't see that coming. That was a legit good twist.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, that's the one thing in the whole season that I got spoiled about. I accidentally saw it.
Mm.
Um, and I only saw it before watching that episode, so I knew it was coming. I wouldn't say my family is conservative, but we're not that liberal either. So that scene was happening, and rather than watching it, I was more kind of nervously looking at my dad.
Like, coming out in the 80s. What is this?
Yeah, but everything was okay. He didn't say anything, but I thought it was a really good twist, especially because you could say we got straight baited.
I agree with
Yeah.
that though. That works really well. But yeah,
Hmm.
like it's still it works really well for her character. I'm completely on board with it. It just and it doesn't take away from. And I love Steve's reaction to that. Like he just keeps on going. It's like, hey, you know what? That's perfectly fine. I'm cool with that. Like that's great. Just more
Yeah,
proof that Steve is just the best,
Hmm.
yeah.
best bro.
Honestly, like especially in season one when you can get some kind of like homophobic vibes from him. I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad they've cleared that up, and all he does is make fun of her taste in girls.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
love that. Even if he was though, it kind of shows like he's grown as a person, right? It shows like how much he's changed through because of what
Yeah.
he's been through. I love that.
Yes. Hmm. Yep. I agree.
Also, I
Um,
love their commentary on Back to the Future.
Mm.
yeah. Actually, guys, can I need to just check something real quick? I'll mute you guys talk. I'll be right back.
Leaving
Hold
the
on.
show and you're the host. Jeez.
What? Well, you guys can handle for just a few seconds, right? Hold on. I'll
Probably
be
not.
right back.
Well, moving on to the fairgrounds with Hopper, Joyce, and Alexi, and if I'm not mistaken, it's Murray.
Yes.
I was, I'll admit, like, it was definitely a little bit sad to see Alexi get killed here. Like, he's
Yeah,
definitely. Oh, go ahead.
for a character who was only there for like a few episodes, it's sad. He was like, he was a kind person,
Yeah.
and
Like,
oh, that 7-Eleven, like they had
mhm.
their free Slurpee day, right? And there was this whole cherry Slurpee for Alexi hashtag that was like going around.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Like, it definitely, like, I think it shows just how well they played the character and how well kind of the writing was from Murray and Alexi. Like, he definitely grew on me a bit, and it was definitely sad to see him die and everything. And it was definitely, I think, Murray, his actor and character, played that really well too. Like, these two grew on me, and their kind of relationship between one another grew on me, and it was sad to see him lose, them, lose him and all that. Right?
yeah,
Like they pulled it
yeah,
off
I
really
agree.
well. After that, I think we see. Like, we definitely also have Hopper kind of running through the fairgrounds, having to deal with a whole bunch of different Russian agents, and it's. I love the fact that this policeman, who, as far as we're aware, doesn't really have any military training, is just able to do everything he's able to do. Like, it's ridiculous, but I love it still. Like, these are
Yeah,
supposed to be trained Russian military agents, and they're just being taken down by a police officer.
yeah. Who's playing on home ground? To
Yeah,
be fair,
yeah, that's true too. But still, I do kind of love the fact that he's a police officer and he's just taking down these trained Russian military agents.
actually, speaking of which, like I just love the setting for that. The mirrors and
Mm,
that just that haunted house feel. He's like waiting for them to strike. It was a really well done scene.
mm-hmm.
I
Completely
just love
agree.
any scene where Hopper gets to punch anyone.
And I'll admit, I was a little bit surprised. Right, like I thought, I genuinely thought like our Terminator friend, like, oh wow, they killed him that quickly. I thought he'd be around. Like, oh no, he's not dead. Fair enough. But like they genuinely
Yeah,
surprised me with that. I'm like, wow, Hopper took him out quick. I thought he would be dealing with him a
yeah,
bit more, but no,
it
he's
was
still there.
sudden.
Yeah,
So we were talking about the Terminator guy. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, that
The
that was great.
After that, we
Um,
have at the very end
we have
we
L's leg.
yeah, Elle collapsing from a
Oh,
wound on her
that
leg,
yeah,
That
that
is the
and
that
that's how
only
this
scene in
episode
the
ends.
whole show that I couldn't watch. I closed my eyes because like I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing at that point, like yeah, that's the end of the episode, and then we kind of go into chapter 8. I guess we can kind of go into that one now, unless HC has anything he'd like to say.
I will say at the end of the episode, there's when they're in the car and Billy is just in another car, like having the car lights on them, like him sitting in the car like with this blank expression. That was great. In again, just his expression creeps you out.
Mm,
Perfect. Great actor.
agreed. But yeah, like
The
oh, go ahead.
when yeah, like Billy is waiting, and it's everything is tense. Their L's powers aren't working, and Jonathan gets a freaking knife, right? And my dad is like, "Oh my God, 11 is gonna become Hiccup."
Wow.
Me and him, we both thought that he was just gonna straight up cut her leg off.
But
It was really that they were just taking the thing out.
what he did instead though was just, in my mind, it was even worse because I'll agree. Like that's at the beginning of, if I'm not mistaken, chapter 8. At this point, the Battle of Starcourt, right? When they start, working on getting the thing out of Elle's leg.
Right.
Is all I can say to that. I'm not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I'm not big
Well, I
on
will
watching
say
stuff like that on
ending
screen.
of that scene the ending of that scene is great when they toss it out and you see Hopper and Joyce and
Mm.
Murray looking at them.
mhm.
Like yeah, they yeah, that transition is so good of Hopper just stomping on it and like, hey, we're here. Let's do shit.
Yeah.
Like that was great. But seeing them
You
try
get
to
this you
work on
get
her
this kind
leg.
of safe feeling like, okay, at least they're with the adults now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, Also, I think isn't this the episode? Maybe it's in the final one, which we'll get to in a bit. Um,
I think we are
that
in the final one, right?
oh, these two episodes kind of blend. So I don't know. Did we move on from from episode 7 to 8?
She gets the thing out of her leg in episode 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're at the
Okay.
beginning of
So
episode
we're
8.
yeah. So I think it's in this episode that I kind of talked about it that Hopper has that bit of a reconciliation with Mike, which again I would have preferred if it were if he was a bit more direct with an apology,
Hmm.
because that
Mm-hmm.
still no need to be this cold, dude. Come on, and but yeah, but still, this is again. I do like how the groups kind of split. That the kids are distracting the Demogorgon in the mall. Meanwhile, Hopper and Joyce are heading towards the lab in order to stop the portal. And meanwhile, Dustin is trying to contact Susie,
Well,
and
he
Right.
all of them have like their things to do.
I also kind of like how you still have these, the different groups. Like you have the Scoop Troop group, and you have or buyers group, and you have the adult group, and you kind of have like all of them converging and kind of telling each other, "Hey, this is what's all been happening," and they're all kind of
Yeah.
like, "Hold up a minute." The mind flare, this thing's this big. Come on now, and then you kind of get some of the Scoop Troop kids seeing the mind flare up close and personal. Like I think you get Steve and Robin seeing it, and they're like, "Holy shit, you weren't kidding! That thing is
Yeah.
huge." like, I would have
I
loved to.
I love that's one of
Oh, go ahead.
parts of Stranger Things
Mm,
this
agreed.
season when the groups meet
Mm-hmm.
and all share each other, and then they immediately split apart again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what can what can you do?
Well, I do like,
Yeah.
right, like how the adults, like, they don't say, like, they do try and do like, "Hey, this is the adults, we can do this, this is our thing, you kids don't need to be involved in this." But you do kind of get this sense that Joyce, Hopper, and even Murray, like, they do say, like, "Hey, these kids can handle themselves, like they've been through this now. At this point, they're just as qualified as we are. Like, we're still going to try and keep them out of danger, but at the same time, dealing with what we're dealing with, we kind of can't. So we just have to say, hey, good luck."
Mhm. And I think now that Elle's powers are no longer working, it really raises the stakes here because,
Mm-hmm.
she's the one character that's evenly matched against the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And to have her like lose that is just, I think the adults realize even more that, we need to get them out of the way of danger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but another we are we are probably going to mention this. I mean, there's we can't ignore this. Dustin manages to contact Susie to
Mm-hmm.
help them,
At the
and
very at,
one
at the very moment they need it, because they need a
yeah.
code, Planck's constant.
Mhm. Yeah, and one and I admit them singing the never-ending story theme is both the cutest thing, but also the most pointed. Like, why now? this,
I love the fact
this
that it's now. It's like, this is this show. Like, it feels entirely like this show. It feels entirely like, this isn't the time. Why are you doing this now? But Susie has no clue what's going on. She just thinks Dustin's kind of making it up somewhat. But at the same time, like, it just feels like this is this show. Like, it's
Yeah.
completely cringy. It's like, why are you doing this right now? But at the same time, this is adorable, and this is you.
Yeah, but at the
I
same
think
time,
there's
you could. But at the same time, you could do the short version. But
Nah.
okay, fine. It's still cute. It's still cute, and it is actually kind of funny to see everybody getting frustrated with it instead of going, "Aw." They're like, "Get to the point. We need the code."
I think though it's first off it's a great homage to the actual never ending story,
Mm-hmm.
which did come out that year, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just love the way the scene was shot, especially when they're singing and you see the monster chasing them in the van and Steve and Robin like sitting in the back like I don't know what to do.
Uh, um, yeah, but then once they have the code and Hopper and Joyce get into the lab, and should we just cut straight to it?
Yeah.
Hopper dies.
Well, you're skipping something. You're skipping quite a bit,
What?
actually. First, we get
Yeah.
Billy trapped. We get the mind flayer coming back to the mall. We get Billy and
Yeah.
getting trapping 11, capturing 11, and
Yeah.
almost
Okay.
giving 11 to the mind flayer.
I just want to close the Hopper and Joyce thing down because we mentioned that, so might as well.
I say that should wait to the end, but go for it, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So you know what? Yeah. So Billy comes back to the mind flare as Billy comes back to the kid and takes 11, and you know, I guess would we say most heartbreaking scene in this season? Maybe the show.
I would say
Billy's
so.
dead? Billy's death?
Yeah.
Um, I would say so, if only because I don't really like Billy that much as a character, but I would say just for Max's reaction, especially
Mm.
Hmm.
Max's and Elle hugs her.
Yeah.
I,
But
I would say the most heartbreaking moment is probably Hopper's letter at the end, but we'll get to that in a bit. But definitely,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
this works for, like, Billy's character. Like, this is a great end. Like, you know, Eleven showing him, like, kind of freeing his mind for a bit and him kind of realizing, like, holy crap, everything I've been doing. And then
Yeah,
just,
like he
like,
has
hey,
suddenly he has that realization of
yeah.
I did all of
And
this.
this
This
works
is
like yeah, and this works so great. As you know, Valkyrie said, this works so great for Max's character, and then just all of a sudden, like Billy kind of being a bit of a awesome character there for a minute, just holding back this giant monster. Like, I'm doing this to kind of make up for like, yeah, this is a good end to this character. Like he dies,
yeah,
and this is just it's a great end for this character. I feel like I'm
it
not.
makes sense
Oh, yeah, yeah.
too, right? Because Billy was like in season two shown, to be abusive and racist even, and it
Mm-hmm.
would be, I think, a bit too much to give him this whole redemption arc
Yeah,
that he doesn't really deserve, but to have him at the very end, especially apologize to Max and hold back the monster, was enough of a redemption before he died.
yeah, like it kind of gives you that like this character's a little bit redeemed. It's like he's still not a great person, and he probably still wouldn't have been a great person even if he was able to live through all this. But you feel like he died kind of a hero in a way, right? Like you feel like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
okay with this.
Mhm.
Actually, just to backtrack a little, I'm
Yeah.
glad that Steve got his revenge by crashing his car into him.
Well,
That was
yeah.
that was
But
satisfying for me.
by the way, I don't know. When that happened, the first thing that popped in my mind was just going, "Oh yeah!" I don't know why. I don't
I completely
know.
forgot that Steve was even coming to help, so it was satisfying to see him just
Mm,
smash that car.
Mhm. Great indeed. Um, so yeah, so Billy sacrificed himself. Like I do want to say, again say like everything about this. Yeah, about this sequence, like the way it's shot, the way the CG also for all intents and purposes, a TV budget is really good.
mm-hmm.
The light, the light, the editing, everything. Like, this scene had a lot of attention and effort put into it. I can tell, and by God, it's a great scene. Like again,
Actually,
when
and I can't believe we missed this, but the fireworks scene was also very well done.
yeah,
Yeah,
true.
like it was great to see kind of everyone come to the rescue
Hmm.
and holding
Especially
Yeah,
like a
together.
July 4th.
Yeah,
yeah. It's also like it's on it's about everyone coming together, and it's also like 4th of July, bitches, happy Independence. Woo!
and like we said earlier, it's great to kind of see that all happening in the background while we're getting this, the never-ending story theme tune sung as well.
Yeah,
Like it all just plays together well. Now, HC, we can get to the moment you've been waiting for.
yay! So Hopper dies. Okay. To be honest with you, I'll say it does seem like they went into the direction that yeah, he's dead. But at the same time, something tells me if they want to cheap out and bring him back, it's possible.
I don't think he's dead personally. Like the
Me neither.
yeah, the way we got the ending of like we're back at Russia and we see the Russian guard say no, no, not the American. Like I kind of feel like okay, Hopper
Yeah.
might be alive. They might do
Hmm.
something try and do something like kind of unique there or something weird maybe, but it seems like Hopper may still be alive. Like maybe he made it into the upside down dimension, possibly.
Yeah,
Like
they
that's where
made
he
a
went to.
big point of not showing him disintegrate like the
Yeah,
other people did.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Although
it
there
definitely
was this
feels
kind
like
of
Hopper's.
there was the although there was this big explosion, so we might as well don't see the body because the body was burned in the explosion. It's also an
It's definitely
option.
possible, but I do think it feels like they're leaning more towards Hopper's quote unquote dead. You know?
Have you guys done the secret message thing?
The
No.
secret message thing.
So in the season, when Hopper calls the military, he gives them Murray's phone number, and that is a phone number you can actually call, and you'll get Murray's voice message, which he'll say like, uh, "If you're Joyce, then I found out something, and you need to call me."
Oh, that's
Wow,
cool. I love shows
that's
doing stuff
cool.
like that.
That's really cool. I don't have a way to do it because I'm not in. I don't live in the U.S., so I don't have any way of actually calling and finding this out. But
I love it when
man,
stuff
that's
does stuff
cool.
like that, though. It's really neat. And it's neat to
Yeah.
hear about that and kind of hear
No,
people's reactions to it.
that's really cool. That's really cool. Um, so we have this. So um, I'm not saying necessarily that Hopper is dead,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, like I think this is most likely a fake out.
Yeah,
There's a very good chance it's a fake out.
that's fair.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um. Anyway, after this, yeah, we have so Joyce, Will, and Jonathan are moving out
Yeah, we cut
of
to a couple months later and everything's calmed down now. The Mind Flayer is
mhm,
dead. A lot of people in Hawkins did die. The malls closed down completely. The Russians have been
mhm.
arrested because, we didn't actually talk a bit about it, but I'm going to go back to a previous episode. When Hopper, called the U.S. military, the FBI or what have you, wherever he called, and gave his
Right.
secret code and everything. I loved Joyce calling them back on the line and basically just blessing out, the FBI secretary person and just telling them, "Hey,
Yeah.
get your butts down here now!" Like Joyce just being the overprotective mom that she is. I loved that. That was a great little scene,
Yeah.
and the
Mhm.
fact that it apparently worked too.
Yeah,
Like it's great.
I was
that's great.
a little confused. So does all of Hawkins like know about the Upside Down now?
I don't think
Um,
so. I think
I
they're
don't
still
think
keeping it under
I don't
wraps.
think I won't say that all of Hawking know about the Upside Down. I will say though, there's a good chance that maybe some people do, not just our main
I
characters.
think some people might think something's up within this town, right? Like definitely, like there's some weird things here. But I think for the most part, like the general
Would you even
populace,
say Stranger Things? Okay, I'm
maybe.
sorry. I'm sorry.
But I
I
will
had to.
say, like, it's the '80s, so probably like, hey, big press blitz on it was the Russians, and that's kind of all they need to say, and people just assume, oh, okay, it was the Russians.
That
Like,
was the 80s. It was
yeah.
very quick to blame the
So that probably worked really well for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like,
So
but the big
are we
thing,
gonna talk about Howard's letter?
yeah. Let's move on to that. Thoughts?
Uh, it was sweet. It was
Mm-hmm.
nice. I'm glad that it was the speech that he was gonna tell them.
Yeah. And
But
it feels like Hopper too. I feel like this is what I wanted from this character, and it's kind of a shame that it's kind of a
hmm,
shame that he was kind of marred a bit by the whole jealousy thing and just the being stood up thing and the thing with Joyce Clay that kind of marred it a bit. But I think this felt like a good payoff at the very end.
my problem with his is that usually when you kill off a character, it's at the moment when the audience likes them most.
Yeah,
With Billy and Alexi. But for Hopper, it's like they made you dislike him and then kill him, which makes it less impactful.
hmm. I agree. It does kind of feel like that a little bit. Yeah, it doesn't stick to you as much as say, like we said before. Like I think Hopper's death kind of doesn't stick just as much as like Lexi's death or Billy's death does. Like they hit a bit harder, even though you may not be as attached to those characters. Like Hopper, you've had more time with, but you feel a little bit less attached to him because he has been kind of acting like simply put, a jerk throughout most of the season so far.
Yeah.
HC.
Um,
Yeah, agreed. I don't really do it.
I'm glad that it ended, with the 3 inches open thing. That was sweet.
Yeah, that was a great little nod to the first episode, and just Hopper, the way he says it and narrates it is just really great.
Yeah. I am glad also that Joyce has sort of adopted 11
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
that she's
that's
also moving.
that's kind of sweet.
And I think that just that time apart, Mike and 11 should grow more without each other. And I'm like excited to see how Elle interacts with Will and Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's again, this seems like something that happens. She moves with them, and this is probably something that will just happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really it, right?
Yeah, we went over the entire season. Like I said, not as good as the first two, but I still enjoyed it a lot. There are a lot of stuff I like about it, and I'm anticipating what's to come.
Yeah,
Hmm. Me
I
too.
agree. Definitely, I felt like a really good season. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I definitely probably enjoyed it more than the two of you did, by the sounds of it, or parts of it especially. But overall, still like a good package, and you'd definitely be missing out if you didn't watch it. If you've already watched the first two seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Overall, I
with
think
all, yeah, go ahead.
the creep factor and the plot, that's great. I think it's the characters that kind of fell flat because unlike the past two seasons, it was more like the characters were doing things to serve the plot rather than the plot happening because of the characters' actions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, what else do I have to say about this? As far as we can say that the show did that this season might be the weakest to some. It did leave a lot of interesting ideas and questions regarding as to the future of the show. So I'm
Right.
looking forward to it. I want to see where it's going.
Yeah,
Bring it on.
agreed.
Yeah.
So anything else?
No,
Um, oh, I think yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Okay, so with that, that's been all for this episode of the Outcast. What
Mm-hmm.
we hope you enjoyed. What did you think about this season of Stranger Things? Do you prefer it to the other seasons? Do you think it's the weakest of the seasons? Is it somewhere in the middle? Whatever your thoughts are, you can talk about it in the comment section below. On our Tumblr, where we are known as Berkcast Team, on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C. I'm not making that mistake. That is how you contact us. And yeah, so with all that said, I was HC.
I've been Wolf.
And I was Valkyrie.
And we will talk to you all next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.